One of the things I often quote in our Renaissance community is this beautiful little passage from Elizabeth Barrett Browning where she says, "Earth is crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire with God." She's kind of riffing off the Moses story where he encounters God in the burning bush. She's saying every common bush is afire with God, but only he who sees takes off his shoes. Moses, when realizes that he's in the presence of God, takes off his shoes. He feels like he's on sacred holy ground. She's saying all of it is sacred holy ground. She finishes the quote by saying, "While the rest sit round and pluck blackberries." We've been answering kind of the same question for a number of years at Renaissance. People are always asking, why microchurch? Why do this? And the reality is that the answers kind of changed a little bit for us. Like when we first got into this, I think I was just only thinking about other people. I was thinking about it from an evangelistic perspective. The reality is a lot of people are kind of rejecting the church and the institution. We hear all the time about the unchurched and the de-churched, people who no longer want to go to a Sunday morning centric thing. They're kind of over the institution. And I said, what would happen if we started to create a community where we peel back the layers of that and we just simply allow everyday normal people to create spiritual community in everyday normal spaces, in homes and backyards and third spaces, just allowing people to explore faith and God in a safe space, surrounded by a spiritual family where they are seen and known and loved. And more than that, where they can serve and care for, pursue justice work exactly right where they're at, in their place, rooted in their neighborhood. And I still believe in that. And we've actually seen some incredible fruit from that. People who are clinging to faith or discovering God for the first time and feel comfortable doing so in a microchurch setting. But now when I answer that question, I actually think a little bit more holistically and a little bit bigger picture, because what I didn't expect, what has surprised me about this journey, and I think I speak for so many in our community, what has surprised so many of us in this journey is that we've become changed. Like, I don't think we were expecting that we were going to find a spirituality in this journey. I don't think that we were expecting to discover God in a way that we had never experienced him before. Because stripped of spiritual spaces that we had known, these program times in buildings, kind of pursuing religious activity as we had, many of us, grown up or experienced in past paradigms, stripped of all of that, in just surrounded by everyday ordinary people doing all of our faith and life in everyday ordinary spaces, has meant that we have discovered God in the most small, mundane, ordinary places of our life. And it's become beautiful. I think many of us have realized that God is much more expansive, just like Elizabeth Barrett Browning was saying, that all of our life is sacred and holy ground, that God's not just transcended, he's not just beyond us, he's actually immanent, he's around us, he's actually living and moving all of our lives, all of our everyday comings and goings, our neighborhoods, our neighbors, our workspaces, our coffee shops, our schools, our third spaces. All of that is sacred ground where God is actually speaking to us, is working and moving, and encountering him there is transforming us. Actually, the scriptures testify exactly what Browning says in that quote. Paul cries out in the sermon he preaches in Acts 17 in Athens to some of the best thinkers of his day. He says of God there that it's in him that we live and move and have our being. We have life and breath and everything. He's saying God is so much bigger than how many of us have kind of contained him into a box. He can't be contained in buildings and in spiritual spaces. He is everywhere. He is doing so much beyond our wildest imaginations. The psalmist cries out in Psalm 139, God, where can I go and possibly flee your presence? If I were to go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. God, you are everywhere. And I think many of us have grown up reducing God. And I think this journey of just reclaiming our everyday normal spaces, pursuing God in a living room, in a backyard, caring for our neighbors and our everyday spaces, we've begun to see God work in a way that we've never before. It has increased our awareness. It has heightened our senses to the divine. In fact, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from a writer named Frederick Buechner, who tells us that we need to pay attention more to life. Because he says we need to really, in many ways, engage and touch and taste and smell our way to the hidden and holy heart of life. Because at the final analysis, all moments are key moments, and all of life is grace. I think we're discovering that our senses are being heightened. And so now when I answer that question, why microchurch? Yes, this is for other people. Yes, I want more people to discover God. I want people to become more fully alive and experience the grace that we found in spiritual spaces. But now I've got a bigger testimony about my own life, and I think many of us do, how God has changed us in this journey. We're becoming more fully alive. We're discovering God in ways that we had never experienced Him before. And honestly, I feel more like myself. I feel like I'm seeing God in the smallest, most ordinary ways, and it's transforming me, it's transforming my family, it's transforming some of my friends. And so that's the adventure I want to invite people on. Yes, help change other people's lives, but I promise you, more than that, it's going to change your life. I want you to walk into that journey with me.